It's a pleasure and an honor to present our paper at the Crypto Valley conference. The title of our paper is A Proposal for a Comprehensive Crypto Asset Taxonomy. It's the work of different authors from the Lucerne University of Applied Science and Arts, from the industry, from Swisscom, and also with an international connection to the MIT. Thank you very much to all my colleagues. The motivation and research objectives of our paper are the following. The motivation is that we see technology innovation in the cryptocurrency or in the crypto asset space based on the underlying distributed ledger technology. Of course, especially in the Crypto Valley, where we have our institute in Zug or Rotkreuz. This technological innovation has led to an increasing transformation of traditional financial markets in crypto or digital-based markets. But this transformation is not linear. There are different streams to follow it. And our asset classification framework is for both, for the traditional finance and also for the crypto economy. Often, if people are talking about the crypto economy or crypto finance, they not distinguish very clear between digital assets and crypto assets. This is why we try to introduce a holistic approach for merging all the worlds, both worlds, the digital, the crypto world, and also the traditional finance world. There is actually no standardized terminology regarding assets characteristics. This is what we like to close with our framework. So our research objectives are the introduction of a classification framework which ensure the various stakeholders such as investors or supervisors that they can have a consistent view of the different types of assets and also to their characteristics. For that reason, we propose the following standardized terminology. We not start on a blank sheet. We based on different other typologies or frameworks. One framework we are based on is from the International Organization for Standardization. This is the first one. This is mainly in the traditional finance space. Our framework has 14 attributes or characteristic elements. The framework of the International Organization for Standardization, which is, as I said, for the traditional finance world, has 4 elements. It has the claim structure, the underlying, the information complexity, and the legal structure. Sometimes it's difficult to compare the other frameworks with our, because we are not using exactly the same characteristics and attributes. For that reason, sometimes in the other frameworks, there are some of our attributes more implicit and not clearly explicit named. But anyway, we try to compare it in this way. Another framework we have used is from Brammertz and Mendelowitz. It describes, the title of the paper is From Digital Currencies to Digital Finance, the case for a smart financial contract standard. It's more from the academia side. We try to very clear to standardized or framework. But also their framework goes not so far as ours. They miss some elements like technology, for example, legal status, governance, such things. The FINMA framework is from the regulator. It's clearly for cryptos. Then we have the framework from Oliveira and others to token or not to token. Tools for understanding blockchain tokens is the name of the article. As it says, it try to make a framework for tokens. Then we have a paper from Balandis and others, descripting distributed ledger design, taxonomy, classification, and blockchain community evaluation. This paper is very complete in the sense in the crypto space. It tries more to analyze the underlying technologies than the asset itself, but is quite comprehensive. Then we have another paper from MME, which is more from the industry side, which is also has integrated a risk analysis tool. Then we had a framework from the ITSA framework, which is tries to distinguish a different type of tokens. And we have from the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance a token taxonomy framework overview, the last one. All this framework has a very clear goal. Our framework is the only one which is really for all type of assets from the traditional and the crypto space. This is our main attribution. How looks our asset taxonomy? We have our 14 attributes. Our 14 attributes are the claim structure, the technology, to the underlying the collateral, something about the consensus validation mechanism, the legal state, the governance, transformation complexity, to the legal structure, to the information, or in the crypto space, the oracle interface. And then we have some attributes to the supply, the issuance, the redemption, and about the transferability and the fungibility. If I describe in the following a little bit more in detail the single attributes. I will start with the claim structure. There is a question, does the asset represent the claim or not? There are no claims, flexible claims, and fixed claims. In the flexible claims, then the exercise of the claim depends on certain conditions, like a catastrophe bond, for example, and in the fixed claim, the claims are fixed. And it's like a fixed income instrument, a traditional bond, for example. Then the next attribute is the technology. On which technology is the asset based? It could be physical or digital, or like the cryptocurrencies, on a distributed ledger technology. I think here it's important that we distinguish between digital and distributed ledger technology. And then we have the underlying. Is the asset based on an underlying or it's collateralized? There are huge assets which have no underlying. If it's the underlying, for example, is a company, then we have a share, or it's a bankable asset, is any type as collateral a bankable asset, like a share or a bond, for example. Or does we have a cryptographic asset as a collateral, not the asset itself, the collateral. This would be like a derivative of cryptographic assets. Do we have a tangible asset as a collateral as the underlying? If the cryptocurrency or the crypto assets represent real estate, for example, or is the underlying a contract like a license agreement, for example. Then we have the consensus or validation mechanisms. This, in the first view, we are thinking about cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, but there is also the consensus validation mechanisms in the traditional finance. There it's more about the finality of a transaction. There we have two types. We have the instance finality, where the consensus is final, or we have a probabilistic finality, like we see it especially in the cryptocurrency area with proof of work or proof of stake consensus algorithms. Then the legal status, there is, we distinguish between regulated assets, where we mean especially the issuance, redemption, and governance of the asset is regulated, or we have unregulated assets, like it's often the case in the cryptocurrency, crypto asset space. Regulated are traditional bonds or traditional shares. Then how is the asset, is the governance of the asset? There we have also a centralized governance, where we have a central authority, or decentralized, as it's typical in the blockchain, the distributed ledger area, is then decentralized governance. The next point is the information complexity. The information complexity is the point that we distinguish between a value, contract, and Turing completeness. What this means that an asset can represent a value, like a currency, or it could be a contract, like, for example, a bond or a distributed ledger-based smart contract, where you not only have a value, you have also some additional information in the asset. Or the last point is a Turing complete asset structure, which you can build, for example, on the Ethereum blockchain. The next is the legal structure. That the asset can have different legal structures. It could have no legal structure, which is governing the asset. There is no typical legal structure, like, for example, Bitcoin. Or it's integrated in a foundation, like Ethereum. Or you have a note or bond, a share, or you have others. Other is, for example, for all the rest, and one example would be the legal structure of central bank money, for fiat money. Then the next attribute, the information interface, give an answer to the question, are there an interface from the asset which it can receive information or send information? In the distributed ledger, in the blockchain space, we often talk about oracles. There are assets without any interface. You have a qualitative interface, like a general assembly, for example, for shares. If the general assembly decide about the dividend is paid out. This is a qualitative interface. Or you can have quantitative interfaces, like you can receive it from Internet of Things sources, or the example, as I have mentioned before, is the Oracle interface in the distributed ledger area, where the Oracle deliver information for a smart contract. Then we have some attributes to the quantitative character of asset. We have the total supply for an asset. It could be fixed, conditional, depending on some conditions, or it could be completely flexible. The total supply fix, a very typical example is Bitcoin. Issuance, how is the asset generated, issued, one time or conditional, like newly issued cryptographic assets through mining. There it could be the issuance conditional, the total supply fix, or you have a complete flexible issuance, which is depend on some parties which have the authority. The contrarian attribute to the issuance is the redemption. There we have no redemption, no burning of an asset. You can have a fixed redemption, a conditional, or a flexible. There are the same attributes as before, or the characteristic of the attribute. And the last tools are the transferability. Is the asset transferable or non-transferable? Or the fungibility, if it's fungible or non-fungible. Non-fungible is typical, for example, a artwork. These are the 14 attributes in more detail. Let's make some examples to clarify. We have the first example is the classification of Bitcoin and cash. The cash, the fiat money is green, Bitcoin orange. You see Bitcoin have no claim. The cash has a fixed claim against the central bank. Technology cash physical. The Bitcoin a native token. The underlying, both have no underlying. You have consent validation mechanisms in cash. It's instant finality if you transfer it. You have a legal status, regulated, centralized. Bitcoin, exactly the opposite. The information complexity, fiat currency, the cash, you have only a value. And in Bitcoin, you have a contract because it's transferred on the Bitcoin blockchain with a smart contract. You have in the Bitcoin no legal structure. The legal structure of cash is other because it's issued by the central bank. Both have no interfaces. Total supply is fixed or flexible. The issuance of Bitcoin is conditional, and in cash it's flexible. It depends on the central bank politics. Also the redemption. Bitcoin has no redemption, and both are transferable and fungible. The next example is Ether. It's very simple in most aspects as Bitcoin, with one exception, with one important exception. It's not a contract. It's the Ethereum blockchain is Turing complete, and you have also another legal structure. It's not the legal structure like Bitcoin. No legal structure. You have the Ethereum is issued by a foundation. The information interface is quantitative. You have a total supply which is flexible. The issuance conditional. No redemption. Transferable, fungible. The last are the same as Bitcoin. The Crowdly token, it's a cryptographic token, is classed as an asset token in the other classification schemes, and it is a token for a real estate bond, in fact. So there is a fixed claim, it's a protocol token, it represents a company, not real estate, because it represents a bond. It's a probabilistic finality, because it's on the Ethereum blockchain. It's regulated, centralized, and you have a contract. It's the structure of a note and bond with information interface which is qualitative. The issuance is the total supply is flexible depending on the amount of real estate, and the redemption also, and the token is transferable and fungible. Then we have these famous CryptoKitties. There is no claim. Protocol token. There is no underlying. You don't receive a cat for that. It's probabilistic, unregulated, decentralized, no legal structure, no interface, fixed, conditional. It's not no redemption. It's transferable, but non-fungible. This is a difference because every kitty is unique and they are non-fungible. Then we have the traditional shares, some from the traditional finance. You have a fixed claim. It's a physical or digital, is between. You can have a share which is a physical or it's a digital. Mostly today the big ones are digital. It represents the underlying of a company. Instant finality, regulated, centralized by the General Assembly. You have a contract, it's a share with a qualitative interface to the General Assembly, and you have total supply, issuance, and redemption is flexible. You can increase the share capital, for example. It's transferable, normally at fungible. These are some examples. Now the conclusion. I think our framework, unlike existing asset classification frameworks, bridges the gap between traditional finance, digital, and crypto economy. It's using a morphological box, so it creates a clear and understandable terminology, and is also expandable. Actually, we identify 14 different attributes by which each type of asset can properly classify it. So all our examples, the classification framework works for our different examples. But the attributes can also be broken down to more specific questions. So it's possible to make a deep dive on every attribute and also to make a finer, more granular classification on each attribute if somebody needs it. The classification of selected asset works, and for this reason we think it's a first step and it's a work in practice. But also here, feedback is very warmly welcome to expand or adapt the framework. Thank you very much for your attention.